I'm super excited to have internationally recognized storyteller and entrepreneur Jonah Sachs. Very similar to me, he has a studio on the other side of the bay called Free Range Studios, and he's created a book. And today we're going to talk about his book called Story Wars, which is fantastic. So I'm really excited to have him here today to share some of his insights from the book. So I was curious how the book has helped shape your creative process at your studio, because that's what happened with my book too. You put it out there and then demand is generated for it. But how has this book specifically impacted the creative process at the studio?
Well, of course, the creative process is always sort of some mix of strategy and intuition, and it probably will never change. But before the book, I think there was a lot more intuition and a lot more what would be interesting, what would be fun, and then a lot more difficulty selling ideas to clients. We'd bring ideas and we'd be passionate about some of the ideas, but it would ultimately come down to what the client wanted. Now, with this sort of strategic framework for here's what a story is, here's how to base your story on values, here's what your archetype is, we can do all of this work that was happening on intuition. We can share that intuition way more earlier on with clients and kind of co-create it. So then when we get to the stage where we're actually building something, there's so much more buy-in and connection, and we're smarter and they're smarter, and so codifying what you're doing is really helpful. And also it just sets higher expectations. When you put out, this is what we can do and this is why we believe it, you start getting clients who come to you educated beforehand, and that's great. It also puts more pressure to
So it's nice to have smart clients, huh?
Yes, definitely.
So you wrote the book specifically to marketers. Have you seen a broader audience than that from it?
Yeah, that was a really tough decision, because half of the book is just about how the world is a mess and we need better stories, and that's really, I think, interesting to anybody. And the other half of the book is sort of what to do about it as a storyteller. I got in that direction because I'm a marketer. I have a lot of strategies for marketers specifically, but I've realized that we all are marketers basically. We all need to be heard out there. We all need to bring our ideas and our products to market in some way. And so I do want to broaden that audience. And one of the things that's been really interesting is half of my byline requests and speaking requests have been about how do you use storytelling and leadership, which is not what the book's about. Strangely, Harvard put management on the back of the book as the keyword. I don't know where that came from, but people responded to that. So
now you're a management guru.
I'm a management guru, right? So I think that there's something about storytelling that is just so universal for human beings that we all intuitively get. Hey, I could be a better person and more successful if I could tell better stories. And it cuts to not just thinking of ourselves as marketers. In the book, I say I'm not speaking to you as a marketer, but as a human being. So it's one entry point. Maybe there'll be more entry points. The next book I want to do is about how to tell stories out of your head to your children. So a totally different approach, but same idea of communicating your values to someone who matters.
Yeah, it's timeless. You did a lot of research for the book, looked at a lot of historical figures, ancient figures, mythology. And when I wrote my book, same thing, I was like, God, I feel like I just got a doctorate in history or something, right? Because you got to go deep, because you're proving and you're codifying something that you got to make sure is true. What was the biggest insight or what's the biggest thing you learned while you were putting this book together?
I think what was most difficult for me going into it was having this desire to prove something that I didn't know if I could prove, which is that stories that empower are better performers. And so I had that insight and that belief, but I didn't know if it could be proven. And Campbell says that when we hear stories that really speak to us, it's more like we're remembering something than learning something. And so I think that's what the process was like, was suddenly all of these things that I was studying coming together, and I was like, wait a minute, I remember that, and I didn't know where it was coming from. But when I really went in and studied the most iconic campaigns and just gave myself that challenge, saying, well, if this is true, then the most iconic advertising campaigns of all time should all fit this empowerment framework. And no one said this before, so maybe it's not true. And then I looked at the highest level, the Apples, the Nikes, the Obama campaign, and they all fit that formula. I mean, I almost fell out of my chair, and I was like, this is important, and people need to know this, not just in the post-broadcast era where we are now, where I think the pressures are even higher, but as long as humans have been communicating these stories that call us to empowerment, to our higher purpose, that's what matters. And I didn't even know about Maslow, honestly, until I did the book, and then I was like, well, what theory is this based on? And then I found, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and said, oh yeah, there's actual scientific support for this as well. So everything converging was what I liked so much.
As you're working with your client, and you spoke about it at our staff meeting this morning, where when you start to get a client to commit to an archetype of who they are, they tend to go to these safe mush pot. They don't want to take the risk of actually being this very clear archetype. What's the conversation look like when you're trying to persuade a client to actually take a risk and be different and stand out instead of kind of blending in the middle?
First of all, everybody knows that they need to stand out on it, and so the constant reminder of that, just asking, do you want to be like everybody else, or do you want to be someone that that people totally associate with something unique? From a business perspective, we all know we need to do that. I think the fear comes in leaving certain things behind, and as you embrace other things. So what we really try to do is make it tangible. So if someone's heading in the direction of a certain archetype, we will very quickly and on the fly list out the great brands that fit that archetype, that they'll say, oh, we could be more like that, more differentiated like that. We try to sketch out a couple campaign ideas, or pretty quickly give them some tangibles about, okay, well, if you want to go in the rebel direction, here's a bunch of stuff you might have. Here are colors and fonts and campaigns. If you want to go in the direction of the Oracle, it's going to be very different. And then seeing it get tangible makes people say, oh, we like that, we want that. So it's a very difficult process, and you're usually working with a team that then needs to evangelize that up to the entire organization. So you really need to, you can't push an archetype on someone. You need to get them to choose it for themselves and learn how to evangelize it throughout the organization.
Nice. So you did a book trailer for yourself, and you're actually known for kind of these viral videos and stuff like that. Was it hard to kind of drink your own Kool-Aid? And like, we're kind of the cobbler kids that have no shoes here. Sometimes we can do it for others, but struggle to build one for ourselves. So how do you feel your book trailer is, and how do you think it's doing?
It was difficult for sure, and it gave me a very empathic experience with my clients of saying, well, there's 250 pages here, there's 1,000 ideas, how do I just come up with one? So that's always helpful, to get yourself into your client's shoes. And we came up with the shadow puppet world, a kind of real brand. We really enjoyed the art behind it, because one of the things is the art in the book is so complex, and we were like, we need something simple that we can animate, because we want to make it into a series. So the next one's about to come out, and it was a great experience, and I think that getting the ideas of the book out there, I want these ideas to be for everybody, and not everybody's willing to read a business book. That's been really helpful for getting that idea, people passing those ideas and making it worthy of buzz on social media. We haven't seen it go viral in the way that Story of Stuff or The Matrix has, but really has helped start the conversation and get people to understand the value proposition of the book. And now the next one that we're doing is all about values and archetype, and that's going to be shown at probably 5 different major conferences. So it's a way of getting a very high value audience to sort of see the book, see what it is, because as you know, it's not all about book sales as much as it is the book becomes a platform. So you need all the different pieces of the platform. Well,
I love the book. I love your work, and it's so nice to feel like somebody else really understands story out there and try to change the world through story. So thank you so much for coming today.
Yeah,
I
it's been
appreciate
a pleasure.
it. Thanks.
Thanks.